Welcome to CMD's Accessible World webinar. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Avery Roberts. I'm here alongside Kelly Berger. We both work in community outreach and engagement for CMD and are CMD affected individuals ourselves. We're very excited to have you here. We have a great agenda and lineup for you today. This webinar is going to be focused on Global Accessibility Awareness Day, GAAP, which was just celebrated this past Thursday, May 16th. The observance is designed to raise awareness about the importance of access and inclusion for the more than 1 billion people living with disabilities. So this webinar is really going to be diving deeper into areas related to topics and initiatives that are getting the conversation started around creating real change around access and inclusion. We wanted to take a moment to honor and pay tribute to a beloved CMD community member who we recently lost, Simon Cantos. He was such a positive light in our community and truly cherished by all. He was a champion of the CMD community, and his dedication paves the way for progress that has positively impacted the lives of countless individuals all around the world since the early days of CMD's inception and beyond. Our community wholeheartedly will continue to drive his tireless efforts to advocate for our rare community, promoting accessibility in the workplace and adaptive driving, and pursuing real change in his honor. He will be missed immensely. As a brief overview of the agenda for today, what you can expect during today's webinar is a focus on outlets that are championing inclusivity and a more accessible world for all. You'll have the opportunity to learn about global accessibility initiatives, assisting in shaping our future society and environment to improve user experiences for people living with disabilities. Now our speakers, Barry Long, the co-founder of Able Environments, an accessible homes specialist and disability community member himself, LAKISHA Smith and CHRISTINA ABERNETHY from the Changing Spaces campaign, Brandon WINFIELD, CEO and co-founder of iAccess Life and disability community member himself, and finally Stephen Mifsud, founder and president of Direct Access Consultancy. We so appreciate you all being here with us today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kick things over to Barry to take us through accessible homes.
Great. All right, thanks everyone. I'm excited to be here. My name is Barry Long. I live in a little town just outside of Seattle, Washington, and I am a 33-year post-paraplegic from a motorcycle crash. I decided I was going to ride my motorcycle into a wall at 100 miles an hour, and I'm a mid-level paraplegic. I turned that into a public speaking company. So for many, many years, I've had a motivational speaking company and doing corporate keynotes, and I got to travel around the world doing that, which has been a lot of fun, and I've been an athlete and done lots of things in that world. About 9 years ago, I did a keynote for a real estate company called Sotheby's International Realty. It's a Seattle chapter of Sotheby's called Marketplace Sotheby's. And in my keynote, we were having a little bit of communication back and forth about accessibility. And I made fun of them a little bit about the fact that Sotheby's is one of the largest real estate companies in the world. And well, there was no such thing as accessibility when it comes to buying and selling real estate. There was no way for me to go out and find a home that was accessible, and there was no way for somebody who had an accessible home to sell one. So I made a little bit of fun of them during my keynote. And about a month later, the owner of Marketplace Sotheby's took me out to lunch and said, "You're right, Barry. There isn't accessibility out there. We've done some research, and we found one realtor in the whole country that specializes in accessibility, and we'd like it if you looked at this guy." So we pulled up the computer, and I looked at it and just started laughing because he was actually from Ada, Oklahoma, which is spelled ADA, and he came up in the search for ADA accessible homes, and he was really one of the only ones in the whole country that did that. So very shortly thereafter, I ended up Sotheby's paid for me to get my real estate license. And my project was to try and come in and see what we could do about this. With my public speaking experience, and I had been on the governor's committee for disability in the state of Washington for a long time. So I partnered up with another realtor in the state of Washington. His name is Tom Minty, and he and I work for different real estate brokerages. And we approached our local multiple listing service with this issue. And what we found is that real estate in itself is just data. So if you think about buying or selling a home or a property or a condo, it's about the data. And the data for accessibility was where the lack was, that you can go into the system as a realtor and say, hey, I'm looking for, or I'm going to sell a 3-bedroom, 3-bath in this city. And it's got this school district, and here's all the criteria around it. And then I take that data, it goes into what's called the multiple listing service. And then the local MLS posts that data out there for then Zillows and Redfins and all of the real estate websites to grab, and then they push it out so then anybody can find that home. Well, what we found is that there was no space, like legitimate space in the database to add accessibility criteria. And that was for a few different reasons. Of course, people say, well, gosh, it was, this was in 2015. How come they hadn't done it yet? Well, there was a lot of fear around it because of the Fair Housing Act. And because we are a protected class, that realtors are not allowed to market to a protected class. So that it ended up being that the Fair Housing Act, which was there to help us, ended up being the biggest hindrance for this happening, because realtors were afraid to list accessibility, because if they did it wrong, they could get in trouble because of the Fair Housing Act. So what we did was we partnered up with our MLS, and we tried to figure out, because accessibility is so relative, that, for me being a mid-level paraplegic, if there was 5 other mid-level paraplegics sitting next to me, we would all have different accessibility criteria and needs. So it was really hard for us to figure out what accessibility meant across the board. So we became experts on accessibility. We learned what accessibility meant for across the board, the needs for accessibility for those who use manual chairs and power chairs and walkers, outside of mobility, those who are are deaf, or those who are blind, or there's developmental disabilities, and there are all these different disabilities that we were finding had a need for accessibility. So what we did was we brought all those together and figured out, well, every single one of those different disabilities has a need for accessibility. So what does that accessibility look like? And then we started asking people, if you had your dream home with your accessibility needs, what would it be? And we got hundreds of people to reach out from around the country. So then we put a criteria together, and we approached our local multiple listing service and said, well, we think we have an idea, or we have an idea we think will work. So we broke a property, like if somebody's going to sell a house, we broke that house into sections. So there's approach and entrance, there's living space and utilities, there's bedroom, bathroom, there's a whole series of criteria within a home, that then you can take each section of that home and then highlight what accessibility needs or what accessibility features that specific home has. So then the realtor can go in and say, well, does this home have approach? And that approach, again, is relative, but does it have enough approach? Or is it adaptable versus accessible, meaning that maybe it's got 2 steps, but once you get up those 2 steps, the whole house could be, adapted to be accessible. So then a realtor can go in without having to know too much about accessibility, and they can highlight all of the different features that that home would have that could work for somebody who has an accessibility need. And then the realtor can highlight all of that and put it into the database. And in the state of Washington, the MLS opened up their database for us. So now we have 10 different criteria that a realtor can go in and check and say, yes, this home has an accessible approach, accessible entrance, and accessible living space, a main level, primary bathroom, primary bedroom. So then when someone's looking for that home, they can actually look for that home based on the accessibility features. So they might want to live in a specific town, and they might want a specific size home. But in the state of Washington now, if the realtor does their job right and they list those accessibility features, then a realtor who's looking for those accessibility features can find it. So then what we also did was we created a form that goes along with those search criteria. And that form then breaks out every room in a home that could have accessibility features. So the realtor, all they really need is a tape measure and this form to figure out if it has enough accessibility features to then go out and promote that for somebody who's looking for it. So then what ended up happening was we got the system set up in Washington several years ago, and it took us 2 years to even get this thing, going, because we had to go to the Real Estate Standards Organization, which is a national organization that monitors the taxonomy of real estate. So for example, the state of Washington uses the word bedroom, and that means that the state of Oregon can't use the term BDRN to highlight a bedroom, because now you would have 2 different data points for the same section in a house. So the Real Estate Standards Organization they're the ones who monitor the taxonomies to make sure that they're appropriate and the same all the way across the country. And they actually adopted our accessibility taxonomy for the whole country. So it was such a huge push for us because now we have a situation where in the state of Washington, our taxonomy works all the way across the state. So every realtor in the state can use our form to list a property that has accessibility features and then find a property that has accessibility features. So it's been a super cool process going through that. So then what happened is that we had realtors that were excited about what we had done, but now they're afraid to use it because of the Fair Housing Act. For example, there are certain words that the Fair Housing Act says that you are not allowed to use in a listing of a property nationwide. Well, one of those words that's a do not use word is the word wheelchair. So here we are trying to highlight, for example, a wheelchair accessible home, but we're not allowed to use the word wheelchair because of the Fair Housing Act. So we had to get really creative in how we do marketing for these properties. And what we came up with was that one of the fears of the Fair Housing Act's rules and guidelines are that they're talking about the person, like for me, the person who is disabled, and they can't market, a realtor can't market to me as a disabled person. So what we wanted to do is highlight to realtors that yes, there are disabilities out there. Yes, we have those disabilities. And here is a span of all of or many of those different disabilities that are out there, from the blind and the deaf and those who have mobility challenges and developmental disabilities and all these different things. So we started a training program that highlights, well, here are a whole series of disabilities that people in the world have that have some kind of a relationship to real estate. And then once the realtors got through that section of disability training, then they learned, and we've taught them, well, now because of all these different disabilities, as I said before, there's a need for accessibility. And that accessibility can come at all sorts of different areas within a home and all sorts of different variations of that accessibility need based on the person's disability. So in our training, we highlight what disability is, and then we tell, okay, all the realtors that took this training, you now have an idea what disability is and what disability means, and whether it's personal disability or social disability and all those different variations of it. But now, from now on, we're going to talk about accessibility as a feature set of a home, just like we would talk about a bedroom, a bathroom, or some kind of appliance. So now when we're talking about and highlighting and marketing homes that have accessibility needs or have accessibility features, we're not worried about the Fair Housing Act as much because we're not targeting the person when we're highlighting those accessibility features. We're targeting a feature that that home has that could then turn around and benefit one of us or someone who has a disability or someday may have some kind of a disability that allows for the need for that accessibility. So it's been a really fun process. And my partner, Tom, and I, and we have another partner in our accessibility training program. His name's Michael. And then my wife is actually the one who manages all of us and keeps us all in line. And we are just weeks away from launching a national real estate training for realtors. And realtors will be able to go take we're expecting it's going to be about 10-hour course. That's when they get done with that course, they're going to get their accessibility real estate specialist designation, similar to the military designations or the seniors designations, that when they take this course and finish it, they'll have a really good understanding of what disability is and how does it work, in terms of the relationship to real estate, all the laws around those, the governance around what accessibility is and how does it work in our country when it comes to real estate. And then from there, we're going to teach them how to use all of these features within their business and how to make their business more accessible. And then in the end, we're doing a disability awareness, almost an etiquette program on, well, how do you work with people with disabilities? So we've gone out and interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and we've asked all of them, well, how would you want a realtor to work with you? So then we have people from all different disabilities and all different walks of life and all different socioeconomic backgrounds that are specifically looking at the camera and telling realtors, hey, this is what my disability is, this is what my situation is, and this is how I would love it if you worked with me when I was trying to buy or sell a house. So we're excited. It's going to be a masterclass style training, and we turned my garage into a studio, and we've been working on it for 2 years. So realtors all over the whole country really soon are going to be able to get their ARES designation and learn how to work with people with disabilities and buy and sell accessible homes. So, and since we've started this, we've come up with about maybe a dozen, pretty close to 20 other realtors around the country that have either been working on it and didn't make it really public, and we're bringing that network together so that anybody who's got any kind of an accessibility need around the country will be able to come to us we have a company that's called Able Environments, and Able Environments now is becoming the hub for accessibility realtors for around the country. So anybody around the country who's looking for an accessibility focused realtor can come to us at Able Environments, and then we can find those realtors that we've worked with around the country. So it's a super fun project. Tom and I have been having a blast with it. We've learned a lot, and we're really excited about where we're going to take it next. So
thank you so much. Next, I am going to turn things over to LAKISHA and CHRISTINA to share more about their well-known campaign, improving accessible restroom facilities across the country.
Hello, everybody. Barry, thank you. I will definitely tell every realtor that I know, including my niece, about that course. It's definitely needed. I'm so happy you're working on that. But I'm LAKISHA Smith. I co-chair the Georgia chapter of the Changing Spaces campaign. And firstly, my personal connection to the disability community is my own son. My mother too, but my son is where it all started. He will be 21 in a few days, June 2nd. He has spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. He uses a wheelchair. He has severe to profound hearing and vision impairment, seizure disorder, and some other things going on. He's total care, meaning everything has to be done for him. So that's my personal connection to the disability community. Changing Spaces campaign, we started in 2016. It was really wild how it started, just a bunch of moms on social media posting about the same issue. Then we all kind of got connected somehow to see how can we help combat the issue at hand. And so our mission is to promote inclusion, access, and equality for people with disabilities who cannot safely utilize standard handicap accessible restrooms. Some of our families have had to lie our loved ones on public restroom floors to change them, keep them home, leave them soiled in their own waste while out. We've had to divide families, one stay home with the one that has more needs, the other take the other kids out. It's definitely been our journey. And so we've all come together to help combat this. We now have 27 state chapters, and we just keep on moving on. I'll stop real quick since there's two of us and let CHRISTINA tell you her personal connection, and then we'll just go from there.
Hi, everyone. I am CHRISTINA ABERNETHY. I am the lead chapter for the Pennsylvania Changing Spaces chapter. And my personal connection is also my son. He just turned 13. He's actually a twin, but Ethan, also known as Bubba, he is autistic and has some other medical diagnoses as well, and needs assistance still with daily living and things like that. So I had met Keisha by sharing our story across social media, and then that's how I became part of the Changing Spaces campaign, probably in 2016 or 2017 with her. And have been advocating since then, along with other parents, caregivers, and self-advocates. And like she said, our mission to promote community inclusion and access and equality, and just to make sure that everybody has a safe, private, dignified space to be able to utilize the restroom is the most important for us, with safety on the forefront of that. And I just want to share too, I was able-bodied until about 2.5 years ago. So I also have that disability connection as well. Not only being a parent of someone with a disability, but now having a disability myself has definitely opened my eyes even more so, especially in the community and when we travel and things like that. So Keisha, you can go ahead on to the next one, and then we can kind of take it back and forth.
Okay, well, we advocate for adult-sized changing tables in public restrooms because we understand that people grow. People grow and they age and still need help, assistance with toileting and not able to use the baby changing stations. And so one of the questions I think is why do we think it's an issue? Public restroom accessibility is an issue. It can be for several reasons. Simply just because maybe a person doesn't have a personal connection to the disability community. I think there's definitely a lack of awareness of it. Y'all, I can't tell you how many times when we tell people about our campaign and what we advocate for, whether it's somebody in the Walmart line or whether we're calling up a business, whether we're speaking to an architect or a designer, a lot of times what we get when we share our stories is that, oh my God, you're right. I never would have thought of that. And it's because, I mean, to be fair, they simply don't know. There's not a connection, right? And so I think that's definitely one of the reasons too, one of the main reasons why public restroom accessibility is an issue. And another reason is I think that a lot of businesses are really just focused on being ADA compliant. And, I'm sure we all know that, being compliant doesn't necessarily mean accessibility, it's accessible. So we try to go beyond that, just being ADA compliant, and try to get people to see the whole person, what it means to us just to be able to perform a basic need while out in the community, which will allow us to patronize your business and pay into, society and things of that sort. And those are things that people just don't think about every day. Christina, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, as Ethan was getting older, and we shared our story, and that's how I met Keisha and Sarah and a lot of the other chapter leads across the nation that are advocating for this, is our disabled children become disabled adults. They grow bigger and taller. And I mean, this isn't just about our kids, but about a disability community, a chronic illness, injury, accident. I mean, there's so many different reasons why somebody might need an adult size changing table, which they're also called universally designed changing tables. Meaning you can put a baby on here, you can change a toddler. My son who's 13, an aging loved one, maybe your father or mother has MS. Like there's just so many different reasons why. And what we were noticing is the same thing with Keisha, is as we're talking to businesses, I think when we know better, we do better. And so many are just unaware and uneducated about it. So spreading awareness and educating is definitely our top priority, because without people knowing, they can't do better when they don't know. And like she spoke about ADA compliant, is I think a lot of people think as long as there's wheelchair access and there's ramps and there's elevators, accessible seating, they think we're good. And what happens is we might have access into the building, but if there's no access within the restroom, then people are still stuck at home. People are still not coming out. They're still not spending money and enjoying a day out as a family because there is not an accessible restroom. Just like you or I would probably not go out for an entire day if there's not going to be a restroom where we're going, right? So that these are the things that our families think about, and we're calling ahead. And do you have something like this? Or what are the options if you don't have an accessible restroom with a changing table? What are the options if I need to help my son? So I think that that's one of the biggest barriers. And like we talk about dignity a lot, and I know I'm sure Keisha can speak to this too. And when I think about human dignity, there's been times where we've had to change our son in a busy, crowded parking lot. I have my other children holding up towels, beach towels around me as I'm trying to clean him in the back of our SUV. We have tried to lay him down on a beach towel on a public restroom floor. I mean, as a woman, I don't even want to lay my purse down on a public restroom floor, and we're laying our loved ones on public restroom floors. So just to speak to the human dignity part, I mean, safety, we talk about a lot. We want to make sure that these tables are height adjustable so that people can transfer safely. But also the human dignity aspect is that no human being should ever be laid on a public restroom floor, nor do I believe that any human being should have to use the restroom or be cleaned or have their needs met in a busy parking lot. Or, we go on vacation and we travel. There was no places in airports. There's not a place on an airplane, which is why we don't travel that way. Even from here to North Carolina, to my knowledge, there are not in any rest stops from here to North Carolina and back. So we got creative and started bringing a tent. However, my son is mobile. So, I mean, if Keisha had to do something like that, she wouldn't be able to do that with her son, to be able to transfer him from his wheelchair into a tent outside, right? So I think families are starting to get really creative. However, as we're aging as the parents, we can't continue to lift our loved ones and transfer them safely. And we just need a safe, private, dignified way to clean them. And I think that's the biggest thing when we talk about human dignity, is making sure that they're treated as equals and as a human being, and we're not laying them on public restroom floors or taking care of their needs in public.
And as far as the dignity is concerned, I just lay it out on the line. I really try to get people to see that, anybody can become disabled at any time and need to utilize these tables. No one's exempt, and that's not me putting any negative energy out into the atmosphere. I wouldn't dare do that. But at the end of the day, it's the reality of everything, because some of the pushback that we get from businesses, concerning, cost, vandalism, and rightfully so. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a human being. And I just try to get them to put themselves in our shoes and ask them to imagine having to be on a public restroom floor, disease, just it's just not it's not right. It's not, at the end of the day, what is going to be right? What is going to supersede those costs and the potential vandalism and all those things? You know what I mean? Anything in the restroom can be vandalized. It's not just the table. As far as cost is concerned, there is quite a wide gap in price ranges. You can get a sufficient table from as low as $3,000 all the way up to $10,000 plus. So we try to speak to those things to kind of like level the playing field, because I know a lot of times, anytime people hear about disabilities and accommodating the disability community, you think, oh gosh, what am I going to have to do? And that means I'm going to have to redo some things. What are the costs? Which is fair. So we try to go ahead and speak to those things to try to, again, level the playing field, and at the end of the day, trying to get people to see what's meaningful. We not only get pushback from businesses, we get just pushback from your regular everyday person as well. People tell us we're asking for handouts and all that stuff. And again, nobody's probably really thinking like, I may need this one day, or a loved one, my mom, may need this one day. But anyway, one of the main things though that I want to point out is that our campaign, we advocate for powered height adjustable tables, because we understand that we all come in different, we come in different heights, sizes, and weights. And so we understand that being able to adjust the table to a level that's comfortable for a person that you're caring for and the caregiver is going to significantly lessen the risk of injury versus your fixed height tables, where you may have to strain your back a little bit more, or even someone who's able to self-transfer. Being able to adjust that table is going to make life a whole lot better for them. So we don't advocate for the fixed tables. We advocate for the powered height adjustable tables.
And I just think it's important that when we're talking about inclusion and accessibility, that we're trying to get to the forefront of these conversations, because, and I'm guilty of this too, I will completely fully admit that I think our world is so used to looking through an able-bodied lens. When we build parks, when we build amusement park, when we think of anything, when they're building and there's a new this, and there's a new park, and there's a new amusement park, and there's a new splash pad, and all these things, hardly ever do you see inclusive equipment or places that are truly accessible for all kids or all people of all different shapes, sizes, and abilities. And so I think it's so important that we try to get to the forefront of these conversations when new buildings are coming up, or new parks, or new establishments, or a new hotel, or building houses. I think the work that you're doing, Barry, is great. So I think if we can start having these conversations at the forefront, because when we're not part of those conversations at the beginning, then businesses and places are trying to play catch up. They're trying to retrofit a table, or they can't do it now because they don't have the funds or they don't have the space. And so I think it's so important. So not just with the changing tables, but all the work that we're doing is make sure that we have somebody who's representing the disability community to say, hey, don't forget about these people, right? Because if we're not doing that, I just think that we're constantly playing catch up in our society and in our world as a whole, because we really are guilty of looking through an able-bodied lens. And I know I was guilty of that before my son, and even more so after the disability that I now have, and using mobility aids in public. It's like, wow, it's so eye-opening. But I hope that we can bring it to the forefront of the conversation so that we're not an afterthought, and that all people are seen from the beginning.
And if you're wondering, how can you better help advocate? It's really simple. Just simply by opening your mouth. Word of mouth is still, in my opinion, one of the most powerful forms of advocacy. It can be very influential. I thought about the quantitative data and your other qualitative data, which is still very important. But just simply sharing your story, your personal story. If you don't have a personal connection, share our story, share someone else's story, just share about the campaign. It's really not hard. What we've done is just built a community of advocates, mostly moms, but we do have self-advocates and husbands on our team as well. And we just work together because we know that it's a state issue. So each state is going to operate a little bit differently. We're able to collaborate and we're able to share ideas and what's working and what's not working in different states. Some of us are pursuing legislative advocacy or have in the past. And there's a few states that have been able to actually get bills passed concerning the tables. And there's also federal change that went into effect, was it January, Christina, concerning new construction and the tables. But the issue is it's still a state issue. So each of our states will still have to petition our states to adopt a new code, the federal building code, because some of our states are still operating off of years old building code. So that's still a task, but at least we're moving. Over the years, we've been, just by simply talking and asking, we've been able to get businesses to put in tables for us. We're not really going for like your mom and pop businesses and things like that. Yes, we let them know, and if they decide and have the capacity to put in the table, great. But we mostly target those places where families would like to frequent, your malls, your museums, your stadiums, your theme parks and things of that sort. And you can go on our website if you just don't know how to advocate. We have a whole 20-minute video to help you out. We have an advocacy toolkit on the website. Our website is changingspacescampaign.com, and we are all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a YouTube channel, it's Changing Spaces Campaign. Christina, anything you would like to add?
No, I think that was really great, and hopefully you'll check us out on the website. There's a lot of great information, a lot of resources. You can see all the chapter leads, the work that each individual state is doing.
And one other important thing before we go, we do have an option on our website where you can submit table locations. If you come across a table, please go to our website, Changing Spaces Campaign, to submit that table location. You can be descriptive and everything. You can let people know if it's a fixed height table, adjustable height table, the location and everything. So, and if you would like to join the campaign, you can go to our website, and there's also the tab where you can submit to join the campaign as well. And I think we are done.
Perfect. Thank you so much, ladies. Like Christina and LAKISHA said, a great way to start your advocacy journey is through connecting with your policymakers. CHRISTINA does have a CHRISTINA legislative advocacy team. So if you want to get involved or learn more, you can go to christinda.org/advocacy, or you can reach out to us at advocacy@christinda.org. Thank you so much, ladies. All right. Unfortunately, Brandon could not join us live, but he sent in a pre-recording that we will be sharing with you all about his inclusive public spaces platform, iAccess Life.
Hey everyone, my name is Brandon WINFIELD, and I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called iAccess Life. My journey to where I am now and the whole story behind iAccess Life starts about 16 years ago when I was injured in a motocross accident and was paralyzed from the chest down. I got tired of traveling to places that I was unfamiliar with or friends and family, just to realize that they weren't accessible, whether it be the bathroom, parking, entrance, or interior space. And quite frankly, I just felt like a burden to a lot of the people that I was traveling with and didn't want to do that anymore. So I had this idea that there had to be a better way to let people know before they go. And I wanted to do that through a mobile application that didn't feel necessarily like another mobility aid or something that felt very close to what you would experience at a hospital. So we were able to launch that in April of 2019. And to this date, we have nearly 10,000 unique locations rated in all 50 states and over 30 countries. So it's been quite the journey. It's been cool to see people kind of learn about us from different spaces without us having to do any marketing, and just like learn word of mouth, and to find us as like an application that's been maybe more useful or easier to use than other applications have been. So right now we are on this journey of building this B2C product that you call iAccess Life, or it's our mobile app. And since then we've kind of ventured into the B2B, the business to business space, with a software as a service product that allows for organizations to collect anonymous feedback from users on how their accessibility experience was. So we recently just signed Atlanta Zoo. We have a channel partner at Passport Parking, and we are very excited to not only bring accessibility awareness to our customers, but also accessibility awareness to the businesses that host our customers. Things that are next for us: building this product out, getting into more organizations, try to make a change at a more business level, other than people just knowing where to go and where not to go. And we've kind of seen this through our partnership with Passport Parking and what they've done in Atlanta with parking signs and on-street accessibility parking. One of the coolest stories I have about that is seeing one of our signs in Atlanta at a restaurant that I used to go to that only had one handicap parking spot in front of the entrance. And now that our sign has been up, they've opened up 2 or 3 other handicap spots there to make it more accessible for people like us to, access their venue and be a part of that. So I love that aspect of things, and it's been one of the most rewarding things that I've done. I really love the fact of what we've done for the community and the fact that people have spread the word about what we're doing, and just seeing the feedback on restaurants and being able to actually utilize my own app for times that I'm going someplace new, or if I'm traveling to a new state or a new country that I haven't been to yet, and I'm trying to find a restaurant or a place to go that will be able to accommodate me. It's a very surreal feeling to be able to go into your own application and see feedback from users that are like us, people that, understand the actual mission of accessibility, or the actual understanding of accessibility, and not just reaching out to a 1-800 number or an email and asking for accessibility accommodations, and sometimes showing up and not getting that at all. So I've really loved that whole portion of working with iAccess Life and what I've done here. So we want to keep that going. I think some of the next things that we have planned for the iAccess Life mobile app is creating more of a social aspect, especially with our contest. We're currently doing contests right now, where if you sign up as a brand ambassador, we provide rewards for certain contests that we do. But I want to get those contests to be a little bit more intricate than what they are now, and a little bit more versatile as far as in-app viewing, essentially. So we're going to update that. We're going to make sure that people can contact each other and kind of communicate with each other a little bit. We want to be able to add photos into the application here soon, as well as a few other things. So just keep a lookout for those. As a startup, it's hard to raise money. It's hard to bring an investment and spend it wisely while also trying to keep the lights on. So please follow along with us. You can see us on social media, iAccess Life, IACCESS Life, pretty much everywhere on social media, on LinkedIn. And just stay in touch with us. Let us know what you think about our app. Give us some feedback, and we'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. We did just want to bring the community's attention to these noteworthy additional resources that are available. There's really a variety from apps and websites that they're all great, pinpointing the accessibility of locations around the world. They are all pretty neat resources that are worth checking out if of interest.
Hey, Kelly, this is Gary. I have something really quick, if that's okay.
Sure.
Christina, you were talking about how you don't want people to be making decisions without our input. And in the state of Washington, we actually just passed an amazing bill. It's called House Bill 1541, and it's called, is what we're calling it, the About Us Without Us bill. And in the state of Washington, we pushed the legislature to not be able to make decisions about the disabled community without people with disabilities on those boards. And it's actually now a state law that when they're making specific rules, regulations, and passing bills, they have to bring people within that community in, or they're not allowed to vote on those. So again, it may be worth you looking up. It's House Bill 1541, and it just passed in the last legislative session. So the disabled population within the state of Washington was pretty excited about that. We did lots of lobbying, and it's going to change things within that community for us. So something for you to look into.
Great. Well, we'll see if any questions come in here. I will just go ahead and kick one off and ask Barry. So if people are watching and they want to know, is it best to contact their realtor or contact you directly to start the process of buying accessible homes? Like, what is the best avenue?
Great, thank you for that. Actually, I realized I didn't pop my slide up. So they can go to ableenvironments.com. So if they're looking for a realtor, then they can come to us and we'll do the due diligence to go find a realtor in their area. And what we've been doing is, because we're not national yet in terms of having our network built, is that we've been reaching out to realtors and saying, hey, we'll help, we'll put you through our training so you can then go work with your clients. So if somebody, anybody who's looking for a realtor in whatever specific town, have them, go to ableenvironments.com. We have a form that they can fill out, or they can just call. And then we'll reach out and do the homework for the realtors. And then for realtors, they can actually, right now we have it, it's ableenvironments.com/training, and realtors have been signing up for our training. One of the problems that we're facing now is that we actually have to get licensed in every single state. So we started Washington. We have our own school here. I'm actually flying to Atlanta next month to go present it to the Georgia Association of Realtors. So we're getting ourselves licensed there, and then we're just going to slowly start, as a state comes to us and says we want more, we're going to license ourselves there. So because realtors will be able to get continuing education credits with our class. So that's why we have to be licensed in every state. So when they get their biannual recertification, they'll be able to use our clock hour class as a recertification process for them.
Okay, great to know. That helps clarify things.
Thank you.
Sure. And then I will ask a question to the Change the Spaces crew. What do you feel is the most effective way for people to get involved? Do you think it's more so contacting businesses, legislators locally, or just reaching out to you guys directly? Like if someone wants to begin their journey or with advocacy in that regard, what do you see, or what would you suggest being the best way to kind of be an advocate for your campaign?
Hi, they can go to the quickest way, they can go to our website, changingspacescampaign.com. And then there is a tab where you could submit to start a chapter or join a chapter. And then I personally get those emails, and then I will contact you and set up a meeting with you.
Okay, great. Yeah, we hope this presentation helps inspire people to want to get involved and help make a positive change. So for sure. I don't think I see any other questions coming at the moment. Is there anything else that you guys want to end with or say?
So,
can I ask Barry a question?
Sure. Actually, I was gonna let you know one more thing too. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm in Georgia. So how long is this process going to take once you present? Once you present? Like, I'm so excited about it.
Well, literally, we're here in Washington. It's working. So when I'm coming down, I might have to have a cup of coffee. I'm coming down in actually right in 1st of July, and we're hoping that it just takes a couple of months through the Atlanta or the Georgia Department of Licensing to get our course accredited. And then once it's accredited, then realtors will be able to take it. So okay, it should be pretty quick.
And I'm in Columbus, but if with advance notice, if I can meet you halfway or whatever, that would be great. I do have a lot going on in July. My sister's getting married, y'all.
Oh, there you go.
So just let me know, and then we'll see what happens. But excited about it.
I have one other thing. Just what you two are doing is fantastic. I actually traveled quite a bit with my public speaking, and my wife and I were in Tokyo, and I had a bad bathroom experience on the airplane. And I messed my pants, and I was mortified. And when we got to Tokyo, the bathroom actually had a fully accessible bathroom. It had a hospital chair with a Hoyer lift. It had all the equipment. It had cleanup equipment. It had Depends. I couldn't believe it. It was the best bathroom I've ever seen. And what you are doing, I love it. Because that saved me. I mean, I was in the airport mortified. What am I going to do next? I have to go get in a cab. And they did it right, and I'm not saying they're all doing it right, but they did it right. And what you're doing is so important. I love it.
Well, it's one of the reasons why a lot of us don't do air travel. Some of our advocates have and do with their children, and they just try to just work it out. But that has been one of the things too that we've been following and trying to see how we can tackle, is the thing with air travel. I mean, even if you don't have a disability, trying to use that restroom on the plane is just like, what? Okay, right. What is this? So
Barry, I had a question for you as well. And thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing. And my sister-in-law is actually a realtor, so I'm going to put this on her radar. I'm in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. But I wanted to ask you, I know that you said that there's like 10 different criteria, that you guys follow and kind of check the boxes. Has like within the accessible restroom piece, I'm sure like, wheelchair access and stuff like that, especially in showers and stuff. Has an adult changing table ever been part of the conversation, or do you think it's something that could be part of the conversation? Because I know that there are so many families that would need something like that in their home for their loved ones. So I was just curious, if it's not part of the conversation, could we maybe, you and I and Keisha kind of meet and maybe see how we can make that part of your conversation, just to bring that accessibility even more so to homes that are being built, or if they're retrofitting things into a home to make it more accessible. I think it would be great.
Yeah, so I'm going to say no to your question, because we truly focus on residential real estate. So, for example, like the ADA has no bearing on what I do whatsoever, because the ADA is for public consumption. Whereas what we do, the ADA doesn't impact the residential real estate. Even the Fair Housing Act, it protects the class, but yet there are no requirements in terms of build for anything that's less than 4 units. So when we're talking to clients, the way that I would say yes to your question is that letting them know that that kind of equipment is available and where they can be advocates in that world, then absolutely. In terms of us looking at a specific home and whether that home has, something, we're looking at more of a personal bathroom. They're building out their house for their specific situation versus a public facing facility. So again, the answer to your question is no, not in terms of our working with our clients for their specific individual needs, but in terms of their advocacy. They're obviously advocates in their own right, letting them know that this is something that they can advocate for. Absolutely. We'll definitely promote that.
Thank you.
All right, beautiful. I think, Avery, do you want to wrap it up here?
So thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thank you to our speakers for being here and sharing for your willingness really to share your expertise and insight with us. Make sure to mark your calendars for our next webinar, our Adaptive Outdoor Play webinar, August 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at outreach@CHRISTINA.org. We're more than happy to answer any questions, whether that be related to the webinar or other CMD programming. Just quickly before we log off, I wanted to flag a couple of opportunities. The CMD community is heading to the beach, Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, July 20th to July 21st. We have a lot of fun social activities planned, and we are partnering with Adaptive Surf Project. You may remember them from our accessible travel webinar. So we're going to be providing surf opportunities and an accessible bike ride, really bringing the stoke to our CMD community. So it will be a fun weekend, and we hope to see you at the beach. If you found this content valuable, we'd appreciate it if you'd consider a gift to ensure that we can continue to provide these beneficial and supportive resources to our community. Scan the QR code on your screen or head to CHRISTINA.org/2024 to show your support for CMD. It will go a long way in helping us continue the work of our mission to advance research and empower the lives of those living with CMD. To keep the conversation going, we encourage you all to share with us what you learned today by tagging us at CMD on all social media platforms, and you can use the hashtag CMD Accessible World. All right, thanks everyone again for joining us.